Hi, everybody. My name is Lauren Dickerman. Welcome to FemTech Fridays. I'm so thrilled to introduce our guest for today. Her name is Shannon Lewis. She is the founder of ForeverBetty, woohoo, a women's
Woo!
health platform focused on helping women find trusted providers and resources through every stage of hormonal change. Shannon is developing Agent Betty, an AI-powered companion designed to educate and connect women with care and information they need. With a background in fintech and innovation, she's reimagining how technology can make women's health more informed, accessible, and empowering. Shannon, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
Yeah, thank you for being here. We're really excited to learn about what you're doing and what you're building. It's so important. So let's start big picture. So, what inspired you to join the femtech space and launch ForeverBetty?
It's a long, convoluted story, but I'll back up a little bit so it'll give better context. I found out that I'd gone through menopause at 39, which is defined as premature ovarian failure. Syndrome is when it's much younger, but failure is kind of like when you're almost 40. There was no reason for it given I had no support system. I had no one I could turn to really. And my doctor, although well-meaning, I'm sure, gave me a pack of birth control pills without explaining why and told me, my weight gain was calories in, calories out. So I, threw myself into educating myself of what was happening. And I was not, let's just say I was not accepting. And I wanted a better outcome for myself. It took me a while to really accept that I was not going to have children, biological children. And this is in addition to all the physical symptoms that I actually experienced. Now, I just don't want to scare everybody. Not everyone has physical symptoms. Not everyone's symptomatic, but I happen to be. And I found a book by a doctor who had been around forever, Christine Northrup. She wrote this series of books on menopause. And I was flipping through it and realizing, like, wait, hormones run your body. I had no idea. They run everything they run your brain. You have so many estrogen receptors in your brain and your body. And I realized at that point, I don't need an OBGYN. I need a GYN. I need someone who's a hormonal specialist. So I was living in New York City at the time and, dug in and found somebody, a retired gynecologist who was building a practice in hormonal therapy. And she got me on what quote unquote bioidentical hormones, but really, HRT. And it changed for me. Within 3 months, my symptoms were pretty much gone and I could move forward with my life. And it was amazing. Fast forward, I'm 53 now. Fast forward many years later, and all my friends were starting to go through, finally, they were finally starting to go through menopause. And, remembering that I had gone through it early. And just the same thing, really no community, no understanding. Nobody really talks about it. And they didn't have an understanding of what their bodies were going through. And at that point, I decided, well, we just have to do something about it. We have a lot of piecemeal information, a lot of really good piecemeal information, but you kind of have to dig for it, or you follow, a social media like Mary Claire Haver, who's excellent. There's Rachel Rubin, she's amazing, and a lot of other words globally. And, I just thought, like, that takes a lot of energy. Why don't we put everything into one place where women can access just make it easy. And at that point, I decided also, AI was becoming more accessible. And I thought, we were playing around. I was talking to somebody and he was mentioning to me about, uploading all the world scientific research in one place and training an AI agent. It's like, oh, it'd be interesting. Do you think we can do something like that for menopause and its symptoms? And he said, yeah, of course we can. I said, oh, okay. So I went on a journey and, developed my own AI agent called Agent Betty. And Agent Betty is backed in strictly scientific research. So global scientific research, peer-reviewed papers, et cetera. And what Betty is supposed to do, and she's, Betty's still new, but Betty's doing a great job. She is supposed to educate you on your symptoms. So when you say a hot flash, what do you really mean? What's going on in your body? And this hope is that being educated as a consumer will help you bridge that knowledge gap with your doctor. Let's say you have that 15-minute appointment. It's not a lot of time for your doctor to explain to you what's going on. So you can come in armed already and start making the best choices for you. Maybe that's HRT, maybe it's something else, maybe it's lifestyle, maybe it's all of the above. And from there, we thought we'd take it a little bit further. You know, instead of putting providers in various spots, we can all go to associations and look up doctors or through our insurance companies. But I thought maybe it would be a great idea to bring everybody into one place. So we're currently building out a global provider database. Not only is it MDs and DOs, but it's also, specialties like nutritionists and therapists, even pelvic floor therapists, coaches. If it touches women's health in this demographic, we want you to be a part of our platform. And then, of course, we have some fun things like product recommendations, not only supplements, but skincare and things, as things change, your needs change. So we want to be there for you and be there, for the rest of your life. But that is how, maybe it's a long-winded way of saying of how ForeverBetty came about, but there it is.
I love that. I love that. I think it's fantastic that you used your personal experience to really help future women go through the changes that you went through when you were feeling so lonely, so lost without clear resources, and really having to pave the path on your own. And I think it's incredible that you use that time to really educate yourself and empower yourself with information, and then and now using this gift to help other women not have to work as hard as you did to understand their bodies and understand the resources that are available to them. That's humongous for women.
That's how I feel. I mean, bridging that knowledge gap. I was actually just at the Menopause Society annual meeting, and they had their recommendations. Now, keep in mind, doctors have to follow a certain criteria. They have to follow what is set forth. Otherwise, they open themselves up to lawsuits and other things that could go wrong. So, when we're here in the Menopause Society, their recommendations were to have education for your patient. So whether that's a pamphlet and a book recommendation, I can take that a step further and actually show you exactly. But they were all lamenting about, they have 15 minutes and not a lot you can do in 15 minutes. And then also at the same time saying, how many times do we get the Google doctor coming in or the WebMD doctor, the patient who's like done a bunch of research. But really, from the patient perspective, what do you want us to do? You don't have time to do it. The last time I took a biology class was, in high school. I think it was 10th grade. I don't remember a lot about, how my body was working. So our hope is to be that knowledge gap, to fill that knowledge gap for everyone.
That's great. Yeah, like you said, physicians and providers, they're taught to do no harm, and they go through tremendous schooling, and curriculum is built. And unfortunately, right now the curriculum doesn't really have much in the space of even just sex specific education, let alone menopause specific education. It is getting better. There are efforts being made by many amazing people out there. So the education is coming, the research is coming. But I do think you're right. I think it's incredible that patients, these women are really championing their own health and empowering themselves with education. And for providers, it can be difficult to figure out like what's the right source to give that patient. What's a credible, vetted source that I can provide in that moment. So I think coming to your platform, having already vetted information, it can be so helpful not only for the patient but for the provider to say, hey, there's this library that's curated for you already. Yes. Let's use Agent Betty. Let's use all the other features on the platform to help you get through this process. So that is incredible.
Yes, I was talking to a doctor yesterday, a gynecologist, actually a couple of them, so my own gynecologist here in Miami, and she says she uses 4 different sites to help her, plan out a patient's care. I mean, 4 different sites, that's a lot.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
you don't realize how much time it takes a doctor to really, try and provide a good service to you.
Right. I mean, because that doctor has to, both listen to an intake, and then if you have to toggle back and forth through 4 different sites to figure out, exactly what information to either print or say to a patient, that takes so much time out of those, very precious 15 minutes that you have with your provider. Yeah.
And so if you had like a very like me, a challenging health history, that's pretty difficult to sum up in 15 minutes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you did tell us about like all the different features on the platform that you had in your intro, but can you just walk us through like exactly what the platform does? Kind of tell us what a user would see when they're coming to ForeverBetty.com, and just in general.
So on the platform, I mean, when you just log into ForeverBetty.com, you'll see the bar and it'll have a provider directory, provider membership for those who want to sign up. It'll have the shop, which is the products. And then when you go on the lower right-hand side is Agent Betty. So Agent Betty, you can open up and you can just start asking her questions. And I will say, this is AI. It's still new. Sometimes Betty gets it wrong. So we put our information in there. If whatever you type in, we're going to see at the end of the day. So if you just want to type and say, this is wrong, I'm going to see it. Or if you want, we have our email address. You have my email address at any point to say, I'm not happy with this answer. Can we do better? And I will obviously address that and get back to you personally. But really that's, and bringing that's really what you see is the provider directory, the shop, you have the podcast recommendations. We have a research portal as well that's being built out. So you can do your own, you can look at it on your own. But it's every day is something better and new. So we're at that point where it's becoming faster and faster, and it's really exciting.
Awesome. So, we kind of missed some like fun information. How did you come up with the name ForeverBetty, and how did you come up with Agent Betty? And, is she in fact a superhero?
She is a superhero. She's your best friend who just knows everything. And that's how Betty speaks to you as well. It's very important to me that she speaks to you the way I would speak to you as a friend, and trying to help you as best I could. So, say she just educated you and she said, hey, Lauren, this is what's going on. Like your hot flash, it happens in your brain, right? You have very dense estrogen receptors that affect most things that are important to you, your memory, your anxiety levels. It is like your hippocampus, your amygdala, it's all affected by estrogen. And some people are more sensitive than others. So if you're having an issue, here's what I suggest. Yes, you can take HRT. You can do, there's some supplements you can take, but there's lifestyle choices as well. Would you like a recommendation for a provider? Maybe a nutritionist will help. If you don't have a gynecologist or an internist, can we help you out here? And then some fun things on that platform of skincare. My skin is dry. I feel a little, it's not as luminous as it used to be, or anything in that realm. But the name ForeverBetty came from the first iteration of it when I was talking to a group of friends. I thought about doing a subscription box. So just fun things I think women of this age would like to have and make them feel better. I think at this age, sometimes you start questioning, like, do I feel attractive anymore? There's a lot of deeper questions that are happening at this time, and, happy to talk about them. But we were going around the room and her niece, one of my friend's nieces said, you know what I love? I love the name Betty. And she goes, Betty White. She's my favorite. And she's, she was in her 20s at the time. And we all love Betty White. But we all got to thinking, further and saying, like, Betty is one of, if you've changed your name from, maybe you've immigrated to this country, you've changed your name to more of an American name. Betty is one of the top names that people pick. And it's very happy name. It's it seems like it's an older name, but in some instances, it's a widely used name, but it just makes you happy. And
I love that.
And by the way, and here's the other part, and I know we talked about this before, but Betty is also this old, like, surfer or skater term. It means, like a hot girl.
Yes. I love that.
Very attractive woman. You're still a Betty. We're all still Bettys. We're Bettys forever,
That's fantastic.
And Agent Betty just came out of, because that's how we refer to her when the team is working together. Like,
sure.
What's Agent Betty doing today to differentiate from the rest of the platform?
That's great,
because it's really catchy.
I really hope that providers and patients and someday will be saying, like, oh, Agent Betty informed me that these are the new guidelines, or used her in conversation. I think that would be so fun. But we had a great question from the audience. So how do people join the platform? I mean, you talk about the provider platform, which I'd love to get into, but
Yes.
let's start from like a consumer of your platform. Is there a membership
Yeah.
or
The
okay,
platform is completely free for the consumer. And for a
that's great.
provider, it really is $5 a month. So we have a founding membership, $5 a month or $50 a year to join the platform. And through that, we really want to highlight your expertise. We want to
Great.
share it with the world. So if you have an expertise in anything that touches women's health, we really want to talk to you and we really want you on the platform. But it's free for consumers.
That's
Totally
great.
free. And this, by the way, this is more than my passion project. You know, I self-fund this and I absolutely love doing it. So
That's
yeah,
great.
comments and suggestions are more than welcome.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you about your provider platform. So I think it's incredible. You are coming up with really a holistic and comprehensive provider pool with a really low buy-in and for increasing
Mhm.
visibility of those providers to the patients that are out there. So tell us about what types of providers that you're trying to attract, and are there any internal vetting processes that you use um, that you make sure that they're the correct provider for the platform when you sign them up?
You know, people love to talk and I love to talk to them. So, it becomes vetted by me at the end of the day.
Great.
It's helpful if you have credentials, obviously. That doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't be on our platform if you have a specialty of like a nutritionist is helpful, you have
Sure.
credentials, or a trainer or something like that. But we have a series of questions as you go through the membership. It's not very long, but that's how and we take 24 hours to review it. But we want it to be a low barrier to entry. We want people to have choices, right?
Sure.
We want you to have, if it's a telehealth choice or it's, in person, we want you to have that option. We want this to be available to all. And not
Great.
just, these big platforms. Big platforms are great, but they're not for everybody.
Sure.
Sometimes people really want that relationship and we want to be able to help facilitate that.
That's great.
We're an aggregator of resources. I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor, as we all know. Other than I went through it at an early age and I had to help myself. We want you to be able to find the help you need. I mean, if you told me that I would have had a holistic doctor, an internist, a gynecologist, a coach, and an acupuncturist 15 years ago, I would have laughed. That's crazy.
Sure.
But you know what? I'm so grateful to have them because they've all really helped me. They have all made my health so much better. And I have talked. I do actually have a little bit of a challenging, or I've had a challenging health journey at certain points of my life, and just feeling at 53, just feeling really good. And my life goal, is to feel the same way throughout my life. I know life is not forever, but the quality of life, and I think more and more about that every day. What kind of quality of life do I want to have?
I love that. I love that. I think if we kind of go backwards a little bit to kind of layer your background and really explore how amazing you are. Tell us about, so you've had an incredible career in fintech and innovation, and you are someone that is a really tremendous thinker and self advocate. Tell us about, are there any like unique gifts that you see in yourself that allows you to be able to build the platform that you're building for other women?
That's interesting. It's a great question. I think I think one of my special skill sets or my personality is that when I dig my heels in, I dig my heels in. And I don't really let anybody sway me from that. I love people's opinions for sure, and I take in information, but when I want to do something, I do it. And look, being an advocate for yourself is not, most people don't applaud that.
No, and it's not easy.
No, it's not easy to stand up and say, okay, you're wrong. You're not treating me the way I want to be treated. And that's in any aspect of your life. It's not
Yeah.
just a menopause um, thing. But, for me also, I've been in startups my whole career, and my parents were entrepreneurs. I'm used to having that. I don't know if this is good or bad, by the way. This is not sometimes would not suggest it because it is a journey, and sometimes it's good to be in-house. I started out in finance. I was actually on a trading desk at DLJ, and then I moved over to a fund, and I started my marketing career. I moved over to fintech probably around 2012 with a firm called Altex, which was an aggregated platform for hedge fund solutions. And now we're building out a risk management platform called Chantico Technology. So just seeing how quickly things change from 2012 to where they are now. And before that, you can harness technology for a variety of reasons, but I prefer to focus on the good that it can bring you. Going through reams of data, of scientific research, and bringing that down and being able to educate the layman, and the layman is me, by the way, right? I love what Betty can do now, and we weren't able to get that before. We had WebMD, or we could piece together something, and I'd have a book open and say, well, what does that really mean? I don't understand that word. So technology and what we're going to be able to do today, what we can do today, and what we're going to be able to do tomorrow it's amazing. And for everyone, we're not trying to, and I got this question, so I'll address it. We're not trying to replace anybody. We're trying to bring you together, and we're trying to make whatever relationship and partnership that you're having that much better, that both sides feel empowered.
Yes. And I couldn't agree more. And so I think, as far as your background goes, I think, having this lifelong curiosity and working in the startup field, and having parents maybe as entrepreneurs, and thinking about, future and innovation and change has provided you with hope. And like that hope can be really powerful, and allowing yourself to, explore new education and explore new questions. But I think you're right. I mean, I think technology it's fantastic. I'm a strong believer of it, obviously, and but I do think AI is a really polarizing and complex conversation and technology for certain people. There is this fear, like, is it going to replace me? Is it going to replace my job? Is it going to replace my ability to think? But I think the people that are building in such a meaningful way are understanding that it's just supplemental to the process. Like, we keep the human at the center, and it's just used as a tool to enhance whatever we're doing. We're not using the tool to replace anybody. We're not using the tool to diminish the real human factors that are so powerful in an interaction. And the human thinking, like, humans are irrational, and like humans are complex. And so AI, at least now, has not come to the level of being able to think like a human. And so I think that brings us into a really important question. So to build an AI today is complicated. Tell us about the challenges, especially in women's health, especially in menopause, where there is so much unknown, and there are so many risks to building a healthcare information tool, because stakes can be high. We really want to make sure that we're directing people to the right resources.
Yeah, and in FemTech world, so we don't gather identifiable information, and I mean, we do have our HIPAA policies in place, and we don't sell your information or anything that you're asking. It's completely private. It's a private environment. But I think you're right. Like, just how do people handle information, particularly sensitive information? I know how I act with my ChatGPT, my personal ChatGPT. God forbid anybody had that password. I mean, ChatGPT is my best friend now. I mean, it knows pretty much everything about me. But in technology and healthcare technology, where does the good outweigh the bad? And I was talking to someone. This is kind of off topic for menopause, and going back to my health history and the 15 minutes, right? I think you and I were talking about this when we first had our discussion, and saying, and I'm going to use myself as an experiment, and HIPAA be damned at this point for me personally. This is not for anybody else. Wouldn't it be great if I could just, this ream of files that I have? So when I drag them around like Linus's blanket to a new doctor and say, well, just in case you need it. I mean, I don't think you need it, but you might need it because it's all kind of resolved itself. But here you go. And they always have the best of intentions, but really, you don't have the time. I see this very now. You don't have the time. So wouldn't it be great if I could run it through AI and AI can get it from a physician's perspective? What is important here that person needs to know from all my medical records?
Yeah.
Compare
Yeah.
that.
We did talk about this, and I think, I think the context in which we talked about this was like, could AI be used as a storytelling tool that would summarize your information, pull out the exact pain points that doctor needs to know in those, 30 seconds to 3 minutes that they have to hear your intake, so that it's a more seamless interaction. It's a more direct referral or treatment conversation. Yeah. So I think, AI could be really powerful to that. But what about, for instance, building AI with in the lens of like the information, the resources that you're providing the patients? You said that they're all evidence-based, all curated.
So we use global public databases of research, of medical research. So I think PubMD, I think NIH of the UK, Sweden. We use all published articles and peer-reviewed papers.
That's great
for our knowledge base, and our knowledge base is pretty extensive. And with that, you also have an LLM. And I've chosen, and you can use a variety of LLMs. At this stage, it's kind of a little funny story. I choose ChatGPT because I like the way ChatGPT answers questions. I like the voice and the tone. When you're building an AI and you're using wrappers and you're using that decision tree and machine learning, right? You have to, okay, which piece of data am I gathering from that makes this? That's the hard part, right? What do we prioritize data, and how do we circle back to what we're trying to accomplish? And for us, the education part it's a lot of our knowledge base, right? Our proprietary knowledge base, and then using ChatGPT on in a private mode to what we created with ChatGPT to educate you as the education part. But you can use, so I was saying the funny part, because the boys on the team, they love Claude. We've been experimenting with a lot of them. They love Claude because they're like, Claude is faster. And it's like, the point is right here. It's one line. I said, well, it's not conclusive enough. Like, if you're a woman, you're going to ask a follow-up question. So why don't we anticipate the follow-up question?
Sure.
The men don't get that. We're done. It's resolved. We're great. Let's move on. And they're like, look, it's so much faster. So don't worry. Whatever we're using needs to be in a tone that is very comforting and friendly, and not as sterile as some of the other platforms. Look, I love Perplexity for a variety of reasons, for other things that I do, particularly for math, and Claude for more the mathy stuff and the technical stuff. But in terms of natural language, I prefer the ChatGPT. Is that a long-winded way?
No, I love it. I think it's great. I think it's great. I mean, I think that we have so much responsibility when we're building an AI tool for safety. I think that's incredibly important. And from the blogs that I read on your site, it seems pretty consistent that you are, you're coming up with this information in a blog, but at the end of the blog, it's reassuring, the reader, the future patient, the future consumer, that it is really important to make sure that you consult with a provider or a professional to, talk about the decisions or the choices that are out there, to make sure that they're actually safe for you. So that's
great. As much as I believe in what we're building, it's not the be all and end all. You have a responsibility to yourself to take care of yourself. And I'm sorry, you need a team, and you need a team of people who know what they're doing, and you have a relationship with, and who you can talk to and get help from. Again, we're trying just to educate you so you have the best possible outcomes. There's no way at this point that I can tell the nuances that are going on with you. But I want you to be knowledgeable enough that you can make your own choices of what's best for you.
Yeah, I love that.
For a long time, we've had a lot of, we have a lot of fear around HRT. I am not saying, and Betty doesn't say, and our platform does not say or advocate that you should use HRT. I happen to have been on it. I've had a great experience. That was right for me. I'm never going to say that's right for you. That is your choice. It is your body. It's your decision. We just had and that's against one of the tenements of this. Like, we want to give you the education to give you the power to make your choices for you. The black label is just removed for estrogen, which is an amazing, amazing win for women that, as we talked about beforehand, providers have to go by a standard of care. And the standard of care suggests, because of an outdated study that wasn't really meant for people who, had just gone through menopause or in perimenopause, they're using that information to treat. Well, we're not doing a good job, right? We need to do a better job. And this is a first step, I think, to opening the doors of the possibilities of caring for yourself. And I know a lot of people, like, not everything is menopause. Like, menopause is having its day. I mean, there's not a conversation about menopause, but I think it's not about having its day. It's having awareness. And if you know how estrogen and progesterone and testosterone affect your body and what happens to a woman's body, which is, we are not little men. We are very, very, very different. Our system runs very differently. And when you have estrogen deprivation, it's an increase of aging, right? Your risk of heart attacks and strokes, and this is just fact, it goes up by 50%. Dementia goes up, way up. And it's because of the estrogen depletion. So, but knowing that doesn't mean you need to be on HRT. It means you need to be aware. So maybe it's lifestyle adjustments. Maybe it's other things. Maybe it's coaching, whatever you need. And that's, again, what the platform is trying to provide for you.
That's amazing. So we have a great second question in our chat, and I'd love to bring it up because it's a great segue. So your platform has been around. What are the responses that people are giving you from the beginnings of using this platform? And then really, you talk about yourself as an open book, and you talk very, very articulately about your experience. And it seems as though you're comfortable spreading your information and sharing what helped you. But other people are not, and our society certainly isn't. We're working towards being, more accepting of the conversation. Kind of, we're working hard to remove censorship and taboos, but it's a process. So what are some feedback that you've gotten from the users that have used your platform, or the providers that have understood what you're building? And then how about some just like personal pearls from your own experience for empowering women and people to be able to have the conversation about menopause with family and friends, with their coworkers, or with their providers?
Oh, that's a long.
I know a lot of
questions. Not in that question, but answer, because I can go off on several tangents. No, they're not tangents. It's just, I can talk about women's health all day, as you know, Lauren, because you and I spent an hour and a half on the phone. It was meant to be a 15-minute call, but I think for the feedback we've gotten has been very good. So we've had an open. The thing is, I didn't keep this a closed beta. I kept it open, but we didn't advertise it. And that was because I wanted people to type in, I wanted people to use it, right? The more people use it, the better trained Betty becomes. And then we can really, we can train her more and put up the guardrails that are need be. But we've gotten great feedback, how helpful it is. And, thank you for putting things and trying to put things in one place. And, people love that it's a global platform. It's not just for North America. If you're a woman, you live long enough, you will go through menopause. And this is, we're all connected in that.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're getting that feedback from both both consumers and providers, which I
For
think
providers, yes. I
yeah.
actually had just a recent meeting, and I shared with you guys before this call, but it's it's a gynecologist who's been a very strong advocate for women's menopause treatment for 20 years now. We disappeared for a second.
Hi.
So I don't know where I left off, but it's a provider who's been a big advocate for women's health and menopause treatment for 20 years now. And he said, your platform, I love this. So I'm going to share it with everybody. He said, your platform is excellent.
Oh,
Thank you.
so good to hear.
I'm so excited to be here. I was like, oh, that's just music to my ears. It just makes me feel so good because, you know, every day that goes by, and that's how fast AI works, it just gets better and better and better. And I'm really excited by creating this community, and really I'm building it for you. Like, I built it for me, but I want to build it for you as well. And I want to educate women. Look, I had no idea what symptoms were if you were menopausal. You heard the jokes and you open the freezer and you're just hot. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I wish that was it for me. Way more than that. But the fact that you don't know from an early stage, like, it all has to do with your reproduction. We should be educated from the time we start our periods that this is the trajectory of this. Mm-hmm. There is no other trajectory. This is it.
Yeah.
Depending on, like, you could be early menopause like me, or you could be late. It really doesn't matter. But this is the wide trajectory. How do you take care of yourself? You know, and really advocate for your health. Again, I know I said this earlier, but we are not little men. We are very, very different. And, you know, we carry reproduction. We create life within our own bodies. And that requires, like, a wiring system that is vastly different, but has not been really accepted that way. I think, what is it? I'm blanking on her name, Moscona. She's on our website, her book, The Double X Brain. She's amazing. And it's referred to as bikini medicine, where the only difference between us and men is our reproductive organs. That is not true. Our brains are rewired, and the fuel that's on them is run by estrogen. So when you have estrogen depletion, some of those things don't work as well. And your brain it wasn't as fired up as it used to be. Do things settle? Yes, absolutely. Life goes on, you know, but there's no reason to, you don't have to suffer. As long as I think you have, like, knowledge, you're not going to suffer.
So I think really what you're saying is that, you know, start educating yourself early, start having conversations early, like, you know, find people that feel comfortable. And, you know, you can maybe, when you hear those, you know, really, you know, inappropriate and often used jokes, maybe you take that as an opportunity to say, hey, like, actually, this is what happens in the body, and this is why hot flashes occur. And actually, they really affect my quality of life and my function. And I'd love to be able to have a conversation with you to share more, to improve your understanding and my experience in my body.
It's something we don't have to pretend, but we also don't have to say, like, okay, you know, I'm using this. Most advertisements for women going through menopause, or as a long gray-haired woman and she's twirling in a field of flowers. And that's just really not the vision that a lot of women have for their lives. And, you know, there's that I think, a frame of mind that says you're not attractive or sexual anymore. And it does, you know, it affects women's libido. For some women, not all women. But it doesn't have to be that way, right? And I think I'm fine with putting myself out there. A lot of people aren't, and that's their choice. And it's more important to me to educate you and help you along than it is to the public perception of me, right? Yeah. You know, whether you think I'm attractive or you think I'm like, oh, this girl's always talking about menopause. Crazy stuff. I'll tell you this: when I talk about it, men want to hear about it because they have no way of understanding.
Yeah.
You know,
well, how could they? They don't have the same, you know, they don't have the same
makeup.
You know,
and so you have somebody who's just like, they were one person, and I felt this way, so I feel fine in saying it. One person one day, and they were, you know, a rageaholic the next day. And, you know, what am I getting? And, you know, I think it's I think we've been sold a bag of goods on what other people think, particularly men think about women going through menopause. I think they
Right.
just want to understand what's happening.
Sure.
They live through PMS too. Like they're okay. They
Right.
figured it out. Figure this out too. Just, a chart's probably pretty helpful.
Yeah.
This day is maybe we'll do like signs. This day is a good day. This day is a bad day. Maybe
Yeah.
we shouldn't address this. But I will
Yeah.
tell you this, by the way, and this is just something I've realized, and it could be helpful to people. So I'm gonna put it out there. There's a train of thought now in the medical community about PMS, and that your PMS symptoms are probably what you're going to experience, maybe even worse, in menopause. So for me, that is 1000% true. And I think that has to do with the sensitivity of my estrogen receptors and the way they react to estrogen. So throwing out there, everybody.
That's great. I mean, from previous conversations that we've had, you brought up the fact that if you could have, felt what your body feels like in menopause earlier in life, you may have made different choices in your lifestyle habits, your behaviors. So at the University of Miami, one of our goals is to really empower the next generation of thinkers. And really, I love what you said about we have to start having this conversation at younger years. We have to start with adolescence. We have to start when girls are starting to experience hormonal changes. So as an entrepreneur, as an educated woman, as someone that has so many lived experiences in the space, what do you think are some pearls for these amazing students that are at universities all over the place to start thinking about how do I maximize my own women's health, but how do I also potentially get involved in the space, whether it's within technology or medicine or even promoting women really in any industry? What are some insights for?
Well, I would say for our younger audience is just do it, speak up, ask questions, just get involved. I think, and I'm so proud of U of M and our local amazing university that they're creating this environment. And I think that's the important part. I think creating an environment where people feel free to ask questions, that they're not going to be, ridiculed or, pushed aside and not taken seriously. I think for younger women, ask the questions that you want to ask. It's very difficult for, a woman at 20 years old in U of M to picture what menopause is like, but you can picture what your PMS symptoms are and how you wish what you need in that moment, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel and how are you going to take care of yourself and really be with your body and be with yourself?
And based on your own experience in the FemTech space, do you have any messaging to people that to encourage them to get into the space to help us create this change?
Yes, invest. If you have the means to invest in space, and whatever investing means to you, it could be money, it could be time, it could be your resources, invest. It'll make this is what's going on in FemTech, and we're just a teeny tiny part of this, but what's going on in FemTech is amazing. It will blow your mind, but they require resources and the funding. And, I've been in venture capital, and it is a true story for women's health or women founders. It is a very small portion of the total pie of dollars that go into the space as compared to, something else. So advocate, get involved in any way that you can, support it. Really.
I love that. And that really has been a consistent answer from our previous guests, education, advocacy, show that you're interested in it, and value comes in more ways than just financial resources. So I think that this is
on LinkedIn. People see that there's a lot of interactions. It comes up in somebody else's feed. So that's awareness. It also makes an investor, a professional investor, like a venture capitalist or a private equity person, think like, oh, it's a potential audience here.
Yeah.
It's hard to see from an investment standpoint, kind of like who is this really for? How are they benefiting? And how are we going to make a profit on it, right? And is it going to be adopted when something like this hasn't been adopted beforehand? So being a first mover, early supporter is really, really important to the ecosystem.
Yes. And women's health is everyone's health. I mean, women affect every part of the community, every part of the ecosystem. So investing in women really invests in everybody. So Shannon, I really hate to cut this this off because we were on such a roll. But we are almost at time. Thank you so much for your time and everything that you're building and all that you're doing for women. We really appreciate it. And we hope that everybody here that's listening in will join us for our next FemTech Live. And yeah, thank you so much. Keep doing the work that you're doing. We will continue to follow and promote what you're doing. And we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it, and have a great day.